Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to the In the Bullseye podcast. I'm voice of the Bulls, Paul Peck, joined by Bulls defensive coordinator Brandon Bailey as we come to you from J.P. Fitzgerald's restaurant in Hamburg. Brandon, first off, this is kind of an official welcome for you. You're one of the newer members of the staff, new to Buffalo, after 3 years as a defensive assistant at Texas A&M. So tell everybody a little bit about the career journey that gets you here to Buffalo.
Yeah, it's been kind of cool, man. I got started at a young age as kind of a student assistant at Georgia Southern University. It's been 10 years ago now, and kind of went a few different places, a few different stops, Tulane University, University of Arkansas, Monticello, and then had the opportunity to spend 3 years at A&M, and that's where I ran in with Coach Mo and was under some really good coaches, had some really good players, learned a lot, and then got the opportunity to come here. So that's what has me in J.P. Fitzgerald's with you today.
There you go. You must have left quite the impression on Coach Mo back in 2019.
Well, I tell you what, man, I was just trying not to mess it up. I was so fortunate to be around such good people and good coaches and learn from them and try to soak it all in and learn how to do things the right way and for the right reasons. And, we meshed and had a great relationship, and I just appreciate the opportunity he's given me to be here.
Obviously, Coach Mo is going to be on that list, but who are some of the other coaches, mentors, guys that you have sort of learned from to help mold who you are and what you are right now?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Coach Mo. I mean, a ton of the things we do stem from him, and then there's no secret there. But names I'd bring, but guys like Mike Elko, who's now the head football coach at Duke, spent 3 years with him at A&M. And then people like Jack Curtis, who's now at Liberty, and Kevin Corliss, who's our current linebackers coach. I actually worked for him back in the day. Those people really kind of, molded kind of my beliefs as a coach and some of the things we do. So they've got me where I am today.
All right, so what is it that all of those guys have helped mold you into that you are now trying to mold your players into in your first year as the DC here? So what kind of style, what kind of approach, what are we going to see from the Buffalo defense under your leadership?
I think the first thing you're going to see is a unit that plays really fast and really violent with a ton of confidence. A big emphasis for us is creating a common language and communicating in a way that our players can understand and communicate back to us, and that's in the way we teach and in the way we practice on the field and all of those things. And when you do that, it allows them to play faster and to feel more comfortable in what they're doing. So the three big things I think you'll see is a team that plays extremely fast and physical and with a ton of confidence and conviction in what they're doing, and that's kind of what we're going for.
So how successful do you feel like you've been through the course of spring practice in getting your guys to understand all of that?
I'm extremely proud of where the guys are. They're starting from ground zero. We had a time, from when I got here in January, we had about 7 weeks just as a staff, to get on the same page. We weren't all in the same place last year. We didn't run the same systems. We didn't speak the same language. So we had time to really get that ironed out and then to translate that to our kids and teaching, and they've really embraced it. I'm proud of where they are. I mean, that's not to say there aren't ways we can grow, because we certainly can, but they've made a ton of progress. They're bought in, which is the biggest thing. They believe in what we're doing, and we believe in them.
Coach Mo was nice enough to give you some nice new weapons to mess around with on defense this year. So let's start in particular in the secondary, where I think a lot of those new weapons are starting to emerge. As we break down a little bit of the personnel, let's start there with some of the guys who have jumped out at you and what you think you can do with them.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a ton of really good players back there, and guys that got here about the same time I did. In my room, we brought in Jamin Muse from Boston College. I mean, he's made an impact. You can feel his presence on the field. And then on the perimeter, there's guys like Keyshawn Cobb making plays. There's Jaden Oliver, there's Elijah Blades, there's Caleb Offord from Notre Dame, and then along with some returners. Logic Hudgens has had a huge sprint. It's been awesome. So really, really excited about him, and even other guys I haven't mentioned that have had big time springs. They're buying into what we're doing. I feel really good about that group and what they can be.
We're talking with Bulls defensive coordinator Brandon Bailey. It's the In the Bullseye podcast from here at J.P. Fitzgerald's restaurant in Hamburg. All right, let's move a little bit towards the line of scrimmage. Linebacker is your most veteran position, right?
Yeah.
With James Patterson, Sean Dolak, and then a bunch of guys there. But if those guys are going to see the most of your snaps at linebacker, how good do you feel about that?
Man, I'm really excited about that room. You talked about JP, James Patterson, what a guy he is for the cohesion of our defense and the leadership he brings. And Sean Dolak, he's been absolutely bought in since day one. And not only are those guys great players, but they're such an invaluable resource for some new pieces we've brought into that room. Khalil Murdoch from Fork Union has kind of been forced to play a bunch of reps this spring, and he's kind of drinking from a fire hose right now, but he's doing a great job. And we mentioned those other two guys, and him bringing guys like him and Caleb Tate and Prashawn Fan and Fabian Whites, and just bringing all those guys along. Having that veteran leadership in that room has been invaluable, and it's such a compliment to those guys. And Coach Corliss has done a great job in that room as well.
On the defensive line, it might be your deepest position. You're pretty deep. You got some guys that have played a lot at the end spots. You're bringing Damon Williams and some of the other tackles back. I know there's some new players there as well too. Do you feel like the defensive line might be the group that sets your tone a little?
It will absolutely be the group that sets the tone, regardless of what anybody says. You win games in the trenches, and I feel really good about that unit. Coach Douglas does a phenomenal job. You know, you mentioned a few guys. Jalen Bass having a huge spring. Deshaun Folsom, Damon Williams, all of those guys are really playing. Bryce Johnson showed up. C.J. Bazile. I mean, there's a ton of guys making plays, doing things within our system. And I think what we do, allows some of those guys to have some success with their skill sets. We move, we do some different things up front to get those guys involved. We don't just hold blocks and let other people go make tackles. You'll see those guys make plays and sack the quarterback, and we're excited about them, and they are too.
Coach Mo has talked a lot about Damon Williams, how impressive he was last year, particularly as the season went on. We saw him play a little bit of defensive end, even though he started most of the year at D-tackle. Do you see one spot or the other for him, or do you think you move him around to both?
I think Damon's a guy that provides you a lot of flexibility, man. He's made plays at both spots this spring, and I foresee that being something he continues to do for us. He gives us versatility at other positions because he can do multiple things, and anytime you have a guy like that, it allows you to be extremely multiple without complicating things too much. And so I think you'll see a lot more of Damon moving around and getting him in a position to make a bunch of plays.
We always try to categorize defenses. They're a blitzing defense. They're a gap defense. They're going to not give up the big play, cover two kind of defense.
Sure.
Where does yours fall in all of that?
Well, I hope when you look at us, you kind of have a hard time categorizing it. We're going to be multiple. We're going to show you different pictures and do different things. We're going to pride ourselves in stopping the run. We're not going to let people, run the ball down our throat and create explosive plays in the run game. And then when we make people one-dimensional, try to take away the things they're comfortable with in the throw game.
I know, you've been busy since you got into town working on what you're working on, but have you gotten a little feel for what Buffalo's all about? It sounds like you're mostly a Southern guy and spent most of your career down there. This is new territory for you.
It is. We've gotten out. My wife got up here about a month ago, and so we've been able to get out a little bit on some off days and stuff and visit a few spots. This is a really cool place here. I look forward to coming back to JP Fitzgerald's, but we're learning it as it goes, and that the weather changes all the time and all that good stuff. But it's been great so far, man. The people have been incredible. They've embraced us, and we're really fortunate to be here.
Well, your timing is good because now that you get a chance to enjoy a little bit of the weather, it eventually will get really nice. Trust me on that. Summers up here are great. They're going to remind you of your down south summers, I think. So, hey, Brandon, it's been a pleasure to get to know you a little bit. We're excited to see what you're going to do with all those new pieces and all the returning pieces to make this Buffalo defense back to where it's been before, which is right at the top of the MAC. Looking forward to seeing all that happen.
So are we. Thanks so much.
All right, Brandon Bailey is the Bulls defensive coordinator, new to Coach Mo's staff. We thank him for joining us from JP Fitzgerald's in Hamburg on this edition of the In the Bullseye podcast.